Hello everyone, my name is Kitetsu and welcome back to my channel. We've had a little bit of a quiet week in terms of news. It's funny, with Age of Sigmar, you tend to get weeks where it's absolutely non-stop and relentless. Then it quietens down a bit, and yeah, I thought I was going to spend my evening painting my newly converted Deathwatch Primaris, but apparently nope, there is no rest for the wicked, and instead they just dropped this enormous article full of all of these new releases, and obviously I had to drop everything and come and talk about it because that's the sort of guy I am. I get excited about all of this news and I want to share it with you guys and I want to give you my opinion on it. But basically next week we are finally going to see the pre-orders go live for the Night Haunts Battletome, but also for a Stormcast Eternal one too. It's actually funny because I mentioned in literally my last video, which was a review of the Soul Wars set, that it must be pretty imminent that we are going to see a Stormcast Eternal Battletome, and here it is literally a few days later. It's almost uncanny. But the first thing we need to say is just look how absolutely gorgeous the artwork looks for these two Battletomes. Personally, I was always a big fan of the Daughters of Cain artwork, but I would say these are probably the two best looking Battletomes yet. In terms of the actual factions, I prefer Nighthaunt, but I have to say they've totally knocked out of the park the Stormcast Eternals one. It reminds me quite strongly of the front cover of the core rulebook, which has got that woman Stormcast on the front, but I think this one looks very dramatic and very cool, and I love the colour scheme for it. I don't know who is doing all of this new art for Age of Sigmar, but my goodness, it looks so good. Just look at that shield, it's absolutely been torn in half. I can't wait to get my hands on these, and by now I'm imagining the Stormcast one is going to be quite a substantial and thick book. The last one was actually quite massive, so this one can only be bigger with the the inclusion of the new sacrosanct stuff. Let's actually take a quick look at what the article says. The new edition is awesome. Yeah, we know that. Okay, let's get to the more important stuff. So we've got two new Battletomes, a host of new models which we'll get onto in a minute because they look awesome, new endless spells. Now, I've got the General's Handbook 2018 and I've had it for a while now, and I haven't had time to make a video on it yet, but I've been using the information from it in my videos, which tends to be the case. But I've known about the fact there were new endless spells for quite a while, because if you look at the pitched profile points for the different factions, there are loads of points values for endless spells that we haven't seen yet. So it was a given that these were on the way. The great thing here is that they are faction specific. So it means that no one can take them apart from people who are using the same army as you. If you're taking Nighthaunt, you've got your own faction specific endless spell, and people who've got Stormcast Eternals, they can't take them. That's very good news indeed for adding variety and just a bit of personalisation and interest to your faction. But it says these are going to be vastly expanded in terms of rules and lore, which is good news. They're going to be previewing them in depth over the next week. Some of the best Battletomes ever. Well, we'll believe it when we actually have them in front of us and we can talk about them. It says we're going to be able to customise our armies more than ever before with Stormhost rules for the Stormcast Eternals. In fact, haven't we already got that? Because I mean, like, we can take specific rules for taking Hammers of Sigmar, for example. So I'm not sure if they're referring to something slightly different there, but nevertheless it sounds good either way. At some point I definitely want to make a small force of the Hallowed Knights, because they are without a doubt the best Stormcast Eternal Stormhost. It looks like we're going to have spell laws for the Nighthaunt, and we're going to look at the sinister history of the Nighthaunt. You know, I love the lore, so brilliant. And new developments that add a touch of darkness to the Stormcast Eternals. And look at this sinister piece of artwork we get here to enforce that point. My first thought was this is a Knight's Excelsior because of the white, but in fact they have white on their torso. They don't have it on their shoulder plates, and someone in the comments down below can tell me which Stormhost this is, because off the top of my head I'm not sure. It's not the Anvils because they have black shoulder pads as well, but interesting nonetheless, because it looks like this is talking about an evil far greater than the Knight's Excelsior, because really they're taking their faith to an almost fanatical level, whereas this guy looks like he's almost tainted by chaos, and that's not something we've particularly seen. I'm not completely up to date with the books, but I don't think we've seen that nonetheless. Next, we're going to have some limited edition versions of the Battletomes. When you've got artwork that looks this good, I completely understand why they are doing these limited edition ones. Personally, they're not for me. I absolutely love them, but when you have the limited edition versions, they become so expensive, and you think, well, in a year's time, it's already going to be obsolete when the next Battletome comes out. It puts me off buying them personally, but I understand if you are fanatical about your faction and you really want a special book and you don't care that it's going to be outdated in a year, then that's an option for you. Here's a look at some of these new endless spells. We've got this Reaper thing here and a tornado of hammers, and oh look, I didn't actually notice because I've barely looked at this article. We've got 3 in each box. So we've got like a chest with skulls coming out of it. We've got an hourglass surrounded by spirits, some sort of comet, and a floating platform thing there. In fact, here we go, we've got better views of them. This seems somehow very appropriate to Stormcast Eternals. We've got the twin-tailed comet on that platform, and I love the detail there of this, the way the comet's kind of scraped along the ground and made this impact crater. That's very nice. What does it actually tell us about them? We're going to get the free war scrolls, obviously. Oh, here we go. Here's a look at the Nighthaunt versions. At first glance, I was thinking this looks quite cartoony, but the more I look at it, the more I like it. As someone else pointed out in one of my comments, that tends to be a bit of a theme with me when it comes to looking at models. I look at them and I'm like, oh, I'm not sure if I like it, and then it grows on me. But without a doubt, this one here is the star of the show. That looks absolutely awesome. But does it tell us anything about them? Okay, we've got the Deus Arcanum, which is obviously going to be this one here. And it's a flying platform for wizards where they can unbind spells more effectively and shield themselves from harm. That sounds awesome. We've got the Everblaze Comet, which is obviously this here. That smashes apart your foes and delivers deadly pulses of energy that deals mortal wounds. That's probably to be expected. And then we've got a Hurricane of Hammers. I would call that a tornado, but they went with the onomatopoeia, is that called? I don't know, it's been a long time since I was at school, but Hurricane of Hammers is something like that. Yes, that's right, you get educated in Kitetsu's videos as well. Then we've got the Nighthaunt ones, and it says we've got loads of new wizards in the Battletome, so that sounds exciting. The Shyish Reaper. Oh, we've got a war scroll. What I'll do is, because this is probably going to be a long video because there's so much to talk about, I'll leave this on the screen, pause it if you want to read it, but just to gloss over what it does, it can only be summoned by Nagash or a Nighthaunt wizard. For every model it's passed over, you roll a dice, and if the result of that dice roll is higher than their save value, then they will take a mortal wound. So for example, say you flew it over some Stormcast, they've got a save of a 4, you roll a 5, they will take a mortal wound. But you roll a dice for every single model it passes over, so it's kind of interesting, and it's basically better against targets that have got a very high save, whereas it's fairly useless against targets with no save or fairly rubbish saves. That's the sort of gist I'm getting at a quick glance, but very cool nonetheless. Then we've got the Vault of Souls, which is obviously going to be this chest here, and that's going to deal mortal wounds, which is pretty self-explanatory. That's an interesting twist. It can explode. And then we've got the Mortalis Terminexus, which can heal and harm, so use with caution. Again, I like it when they have a narrative twist, so that's pretty cool by the sounds of things. The sharp-eyed among you will notice a key detail. Nagash can cast all of these spells too. That makes sense with him being a supreme lord of the undead. Then it tells us that the Nighthaunt wizard best of all to cast these spells is going to be Lady Olinda, who is again a model that I absolutely love, and some people have criticised the veil, which funnily enough was one of my favourite features of the entire model. It just adds to the intrigue and makes me think, what is underneath it? I love it, some people don't, but that's cool. We're all individuals, you don't have to love it. But this is really exciting. Available to pre-order alongside the rest of the Nighthaunt releases next week. I can't wait to pick that up. I am saving like mad at the moment, and I probably don't have the funds to be buying it, but that makes me feel quite sad, and I really want to pick one up because I love my Nighthaunt. They are the best faction from Soul Wars by far, and to me she is the perfect centerpiece model. I absolutely love her model so much. and it says we're going to take a closer look at her war scroll next week, so I am looking forward to that, and of course I will do my best to cover it as soon as I can. Next we have got some new models, and we've seen these before, or at least I've talked about them in videos, but I had no idea what they were. And basically this guy here is a Spirit Torment, like the one we got in the Soul Wars set, but we have these two guys behind him, and they are, let me just check, they are called Chain Ghasts. So many different names for me to try and remember, but it looks like he is going to be a character, which is very cool. This guy in the center, he is going to be called Crawlock the Jailer, if I'm saying that right. And it says you can use them to represent any Spirit Torment you want. Then it's got these bodyguards behind him, which are obviously the Chain Ghasts. So it says they're defined by their powerful hero choices, and that's something I love about the Night Haunts. There are a lot of different heroes there available to you. The Spirit Torment lets you reroll ones to hit for all Night Haunt units nearby, which we've seen that war scroll before, but obviously he can also heal units nearby as well. I think he is actually better at healing depending on how many Stormcast you've killed in the turn, or I think if you've killed 3 Stormcast then he heals a straight 3 wounds instead of D3 or something like that. But this is a really cool idea. It's all about synergy. And if you have a Chain Ghast within 12 inches of a Spirit Torment, you extend that ability of being able to reroll hit rolls of 1 basically by another 12 inches from the Chain Ghast. So you can literally line these up across the board, and anything within 12 inches of this can reroll failed hit rolls of 1. But if you have one of these within 12 inches, then anything within 12 inches of that can also reroll those failed hit rolls. So you can create a massive aura in a huge long chain. I don't doubt you could probably get your entire army affected by that aura. So that's really cool. I love it. It's a very novel idea for Age of Sigmar. They haven't done anything like that before. Says there's going to be a way to customize them, including mask options, and if you look at them, they are wearing masks, which are very cool. So that is interesting. Obviously we like being able to customize our models out of the box. Next we get to see our first official view from the Warhammer community, at least, of the unit of 10 Grimghast Reapers that's coming out. These are undoubtedly my favourite battle line option from the Soul Wars box. One of the things I was almost most upset about with that box was that we didn't get more of these. We only got 4 in there. Again, considering the size and shape of these, I think it seems like an awful lot taking 10 of them, and I would personally like to take them in units of 5. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see what it says in the Battletome, but it's cool to see them here nonetheless, and to know that we can get our hands on them very soon. So they are, of course, a battle line unit, and they can hack through hordes with a hail of armor shredding attacks with -1 rend, I believe, as well, so they're very cool. And the larger the unit they're attacking, the more effective they are. I think re-rolling failed hit rolls if they are attacking a unit of 5 or more, if my memory serves me correct, which I'm very dubious about, but never mind. Next we get to have a look at the Lord-Exorcist, and we've seen this guy before. Again, I've talked about him. I've looked at this model. I wasn't exactly sure what he was, and that's because he is something entirely new, and he has this new spell which is very cool. Let's read out what it does. It's got a casting value of 5, so very easy to cast. Roll a dice for each enemy unit within 6 inches, add that unit's bravery characteristic to the roll. So say you're attacking a Spirit Torment, that's got a bravery of 10. Say you roll an average 4, that means you've got a score of 14. And then if the result is less than 10, oh okay, so that would be no good. The unit suffers D3 mortal wounds, but halve the bravery characteristics, rounding down to, here we go, to death and demon units. So in that case, if you rolled the 4 and you were targeting a Spirit Torment, you would halve his bravery, so it'd be 5. The 5 and 4 makes 9, and therefore he would suffer D3 mortal wounds. So even though death and demon units have exceptionally high bravery, these guys have a spell that can exploit it, which is very cool. Or if not exploit it, then at least tackle that issue. I like the concept there. Then we've got some War Scroll cards, which it looks like it comes in a nice box, at least with some nice artwork. Not too much for me to say there. some new dice for the Stormcast Eternals and the Nighthaunt. I must admit I was hoping these would look a little bit more exciting, like wouldn't it be nice to have a scythe there instead of an hourglass? Obviously the hourglass is quite symbolic of the Nighthaunt too, but I think that would have been cooler, or maybe even if it was there, I'm not sure. But I think it says that they glow in the dark, which is quite interesting, but personally I'm not planning on playing Age of Sigmar in the dark. It might be quite difficult to see the models. And then the Stormcast Eternal ones have got hammers for the 6s, which is quite cool, but I guess I was hoping for something a bit more exciting for these dice, especially with the Daughters of Cain ones, I think personally looking a lot better. It's interesting when the packaging looks slightly better than the product, but never mind. I mean, we've probably all got some exciting dice by now anyway, so it's not essential, but if you really want these, they're there for you as another option. And yeah, basically that's it for now. So wow, that was quite the article, quite the news drop, and lots to talk about, and it looks like there's still lots more coming. So yeah, this really is shaping up to be an incredibly exciting edition of Age of Sigmar. The most exciting thing from this reveal to me was the Battletomes, and I can't wait to get my hands on them. Right, so let me know down below what you think about all this news. Are you going to pick any of these things up? What is the most exciting thing for you? And otherwise, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe if you are new, and obviously hit the little bell icon so you know when my videos come out. And otherwise, I will see you guys really soon.